backstory with all the brothers I talked to, just about their childhood, kind of what put them on the path that they are now. So tell me a little bit about your childhood. Did you grow up like with both parents? Was it just your mom's?
Um, it was mostly my mom, you know what I'm saying? She was holding it down. So my mom, she was a bus driver. So she
Hmm.
drove for the Greyhound. So many of my first trips out of town, in fact, all of them, they was with my mom. She would take us to places like New York, Chicago, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, places around the way, you know. So that's where I
Hmm.
developed my love for traveling. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Also, I developed a love for history and black people and African history and things like that through my family. You know, my grandmother, she used to tell me about her father when I was little. He was a follower of Marcus Garvey because they had left the South. They left Atlanta and came up to Cleveland in the 1920s. So he
Mm.
joined the UNIA, and she would tell me about the parades and the marches in Cleveland. You know, she would tell me about the red and black and green flag being raised. She told me that her father wanted to move to Africa. He told her that they was Africans and or we are Africans and we should move back to Africa. You know, little things like that just influenced me early on. My mom, she gave me my first Black History book, Black History A to Z. You know what I'm saying? And my uncle, my mom's brother, my great grandfather's grandson, he started his own Black nationalist group, you know, called the
Is that
Afro
right?
Set. Yeah, so you
Damn.
know that's kind of my family been holding it down for a while.
And you know what, brother? It's important that you say that because I tell parents all the time, you know what I mean? Just like I do with my son that live in my house, it's important that we be the first teachers of our history because you know, like I know, most public schools in our country don't really touch into they don't really touch 10% of our real history. So if parents like your family, because we talk a lot about church, we talk a lot about religion, we talk about all these different things in our home, but if we used the real history and gave it to our kids at an early age, who knows what kind of path that would lead them on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely, man. It's vital. Your history is like all the things you mentioned is just as important as food and water. Your history is your GPS, man.
Ain't
You know,
it?
use your GPS is gonna ask you where you going, but it's also gonna ask you where you coming from, so you could
There you
see
go.
potholes and roadblocks and police waiting for you. You know.
There you go. Yeah. Now you and it seems like you had a village. Like yo, you mentioned your mom, your grandma, different uncles. When you were younger, did you have any involvement with your father?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my mom and my dad, they got married early. My mom got married to my dad. She was like 17. He was like
Mm.
18. You know what I'm saying? So I always knew who my father was. But I'm like the baby boy. So by the time I came around, you know, they kind of got divorced. They was going their separate ways. You know what I'm saying? So my brothers, I got two older brothers. They're a lot older than me. So, you know, but my mom, she dated. And the dude she was dating, he raised me like I was his son too. So I always had a
Mm.
father figure around. And then my mom was the type, she used to let people live with us, like our cousins and stuff. They lived in the projects or their mom was on drugs or different things like that. So the house was always full of boys and men, you know what I'm saying? So I was blessed, you know, I was always around music, hip hop. I was, because a lot of my friends, they couldn't listen to rap in the late 80s and early 90s, but I could,
Mm.
you know. So I remember BDP and X Clan and NWA and Public Enemy. I remember looking at the albums. It was always music and house parties and things like that going on. So
Definitely, definitely. So again, that village, because sometimes we because I always tell people, right? Like we need positive male influences in all children's lives, right? But sometimes
hmm
we have men that are a little more toxic. So we have men that are
yeah,
introduce a kid to selling drugs or introduce a
yeah,
kid to using drugs. You know what I mean? So we
yeah.
need to be careful who we bring around our kids